What up, YouTube? It's your girl TT Shanell when it is reaction video time. Now you click the title, you read the page, all that good stuff. I'm a little annoyed because, like I said, you click the title, you read the page, so you kind of already know, where we're going with this. I seen this story all over the internet, and it's just like black teen goes to wrong house to pick up his siblings and get shot. Like, what type of crazy world do we live in, man, where you can't even make a mistake? You can't even make a mistake as a black person. And you know what's so funny? I was in Arizona last year. I went to Arizona and I was smoking. Y'all know me, chilling, vibing out, and I'm waiting for the plane to take off. So I'm just smoking. I'm chilling. I'm in the car. I'm in the rental. Yeah, I'm smoking in the rental. Whatever, smoker's fee. I pay for it. So I'm chilling, and I decided, let me not smoke by the airport because you can't. That's right. You feel me? It's common sense. So I decided to just park in front of someone's house. Now, to make a long story short, as I'm smoking and I'm just parked, I'm not in her driveway. I'm just literally parked in front of her house. The white lady is on the phone. And the girl I'm with, like, yo, I think she calling the cops on us. I'm like, you dead ass? And then I look, and she like, yeah, they're right in front of the house. And I'm like, miss. She's like, oh, you can't be in front of my house. What? Now, mind you, I know my rights. I have every right to be in front of your house, but I just did not want to deal with it. And I had every right to smoke because there in Arizona, marijuana is legal. So, is it legal? Is it? Drop a comment. I mean, it should be. It's like right next door to Vegas. Like that would make no sense if it's not. But anyway, I say that to say that we just really have to be careful because Lord knows what would have happened to me if the police would have showed up. So we're about to get into this video right now. Shout out to CBS in the morning. Shout out to Gail King. She be a little mixy, but I'm glad that she covered this story. So hit that subscribe. Let's go.
A black 16-year-old teenager who was shot after he went to the wrong door to pick up his young twin brothers in Kansas City. Ralph Yarl's family says he went to the wrong address on Thursday night to pick up his little brothers, and after he rang the doorbell, he was shot once in the head and again after he fell to the ground.
Since when in the world first of all, do you see this little boy? What threat did you feel, man? Like, what threat, bro? What threat? And then for you to shoot him twice is because you wanted to make sure he was dead. You're a sick individual. You're sick.
Ralph was released from the hospital this past Saturday, and he's been recovering at home. The man who allegedly shot him, 84-year-old Andrew Lester, has now just been charged. We're joined by Ralph Yarl's mother, that's Cleo Nagby, and the family's attorney, that is Lee Merritt. This is an interview that you'll see first on CBS Mornings.
And this is an interview that you're going to see. I'm probably reacting to it first. So make sure you hit that subscribe. You heard?
I don't know where to begin to express how glad we are, Ms. Nagby, that your son is okay. It seems like a miracle and a blessing. Lee, it's good to see you as well. But I want to start with you, Ms. Nagby. Can you bring us up to date on how Ralph is doing under the circumstances and what his condition is at this time?
Good morning, and thanks for having me here. Ralph is doing considerably well. Physically, mornings are hard, but his spirits are in a good place. I borrow from his spirits. He is in very good hands.
Can you tell us, Ms. Nagby, the extent of his injuries, where he was shot, and what exactly happened to him that night in terms of his injuries?
Ralph was shot on top of his left eye, that I would say in the left frontal lobe, and then he was shot again in the upper right arm. He was shot, he had the bullet in the up here for about, let's say, up to 12 hours before it was taken out. So that injury is extensive, and it's the residual effect of that injury is going to stay with him for quite a while. He's home, but I want to remind everybody that Ralph is home because he's surrounded by a team of medical professionals. I'm a nurse for almost 20 years. His aunt is a physical therapy. His uncle is a medical professional. That's why he's home. So let's put that into perspective.
Yes.
And let me tell you something, Queen and King, the best care is family care. Okay? Not to say that I'm not really into doctors and stuff like that. No, because at the end of the day, like, come on now. We need doctors, of course. Yeah, she just said she's a nurse and she said he has an aunt who's in that field. Yes. But doctors, they have a job to do. You can't really compare family to a person that's just doing their job. So shout out to them for, deciding to take him home so they could look after him theirself. Because listen, clearly that it's a little racist over there. So I wouldn't trust him in the hospital neither.
Yes, that's a very good point. What did the doctors tell you about how he was able to survive this injury? I couldn't believe it when we heard on the news that he was home and walking and talking.
So yesterday I talked to his pediatrician, and she said, so the CT said that there is just minimal fragments of the bullet in his brain. And I said, yes. And she's like, how? And I said, I don't know how. And she's like, bless God. And that's all I could say, because if she doesn't understand how, I don't understand how. Because if you get shot at that close of a range and the CT said that and the doctor don't understand how, then I don't understand how.
Let me tell you something. What's understood don't need to be explained. And when God says it's not your time, it's not your time. Shout out to 50 Cent. 50 Cent was shot 9 times. Shout out to there's many rappers who they come and they tell their story. Ralph, your story is to be told, which is why we're listening. We're tuned in. When it's not your time, it's not your time. When it's your time, it's your time. It's just that simple. It is just that simple. That's why you never live your life in fear, because what's going to happen is going to happen regardless of any of our control. Learn to accept. When it's your time, it's your time. When it's not, it's not. Live with love, not with fear.
Yeah, none of us
That's
understand
all I
how.
can say.
We're just all glad, Ms. Nackby, that he's alive. Lee, I'm going to get to you in just a second, but I want to know from his mother exactly what did your son tell you happened that night?
So his brothers were supposed to go for a sleepover because they didn't have school the next day. And in this day and age, as parents, we're quite leery of sleepovers. So we said, you guys can stay out with your friends, but you have to come home before 10 o'clock. So it was about 9:45. I'm like, Ralph, can you please pick up your brothers for me? Being the kid he said, okay. But he's not the kid that travels with his phone, so he didn't take his phone.
Yes.
And he was like, okay, I'm going to pick them up. And he mistake the street for the terrace. So he went, and it was 1100. That was the house address. And he went and rang the doorbell. And he was supposed to stay outside. And his brothers were supposed to run outside, get in the car, and they come home. And that was what was supposed to happen. And while he was standing there, his brothers didn't run outside, but he got a couple of bullets in his body instead of a couple of twins coming out and giving him a hug. And that's all I can say. I don't think I can speak anymore.
Yeah, I know. It's very difficult. It's very difficult even to hear the details. Lee, the man who has now been arrested, has now been charged. At first, there was no arrest in the case. He says that he feared for his life that night. What do you?
This young boy rung your doorbell. I'm repeat myself, because if that's y'all defense, my mans, you got to come a little harder than that. You cannot be in fear for your life when a person rings your doorbell. Y'all ever seen a Michael Myers movie? Does he talk? Does he ring doorbells? He just do what he got to do. So it's not going to work for us. Sorry. It's not going to work.
I think when you hear that response.
Well, it sounds awfully familiar. we know that blackness in and of itself, just being black, has been seen as a threat often in this country. And so when we hear him say, I feared for my life, and we know that the only thing he was being confronted with was a 16-year-old ringing his doorbell, it is obviously unjustifiable for him to decide to use deadly force against this so-called threat. But again, blackness is not a threat.
Yeah, you know, the prosecutor in the case said, Lee, that there was a racial component to this case, but he...
Yo, I gotta say something else, because this shit right here, this shit hitting home. I used to wear bandanas because I'm a big Tupac fan. Like, if you looked at a few of my videos, like I always say that I did a reaction video to his interviews. I'm gonna keep doing reaction videos to his interviews because Tupac got lifelong worth of game, bro. Real talk. So I used to wear bandanas. The reason why I started like slowing down on them, because people would really look at me and get the wrong idea. It was like, oh, she's a gangbanger, or oh, she's a this, she's a that. Whole time it's just a fashion statement. But they used to take this fashion statement as a threat, and it made me uncomfortable because I don't want to put myself in, or not even, because it's bigger than me, because it's whoever you around. Like, I don't want to put nobody in the wrong situation just for making a fashion statement. So I say that to say, I regret changing that about me, because it's like I shouldn't have to change myself to make you feel comfortable, my mans. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to go back to my bandana straight like that, B. But I hope y'all, if you ever change yourself to make somebody feel comfortable, man, bump that. Continue to be you. We can't control the color of our skin. These people going to feel threatened no matter what, man. Ralph, shout out to you. I'm praying for a speedy recovery. Shout out to his family. Thoughts and prayers. Like the lawyer said, bro, just because you're like, what? You felt threatened by his skin. That's people, period, man. It sucks the world that we live in, son. I had bandanas. People was threatened, like, what?
Didn't elaborate. Can you elaborate for us on what exactly that means in this particular case?
Well, I'm interested in hearing what Prosecutor Zachary Thompson, who we will speak with later today, is referring to as the racial element. There's some obvious racial elements. It's a white shooter. It's a black boy. The white shooter perceives the black boy as a threat, and we hear that a lot, right? We saw the law enforcement community respond by essentially criminalizing the boy and not criminalizing the shooter, the 80-year-old man who shot an unarmed kid. He went home and slept in his bed that night. That's kind of common in the United States in terms of the racial dynamic in our justice system. But I'm not sure what.
They didn't arrest him until a day later? Are you serious? It is against the law to shoot somebody for ringing your doorbell. If that's the case, there will be no Jehovah's Witnesses. They arrested him a day later? I'm getting upset.
Prosecutor Thompson was referring to exactly.
This is why.
The man in this case is 84 years old. Does that mean anything to you? Does that say anything to you? Was age a factor here? Or do you think that this was strictly a case based on race and he says he was afraid?
Yeah. Well, we want to know more about Andrew Lester and his mindset. The fact that he's 84 years old will be a consideration in terms of what he thought leading into the moment. But I'll remind you that the former president and the current president of the United States is about that age as well. It's not an age that's sort of over the hill for everyone. And so he had an opportunity to make intentional decisions, and he decided to shoot a 16-year-old boy.
Twice.
Ms. Natby, I want to close with you about your son, because I've heard him described as a kind soul, quiet, friendly, well-mannered, super smart, and a musical genius. And that's not his mother talking. These are people that know him as friends. What can you tell us about him? What kind of child is he? What kind of teenager is he?
Ralph is a teenager. All teenagers are teenagers. No teenager is a perfect teenager, but I'll tell you what Ralph and I will argue about. Ralph and I will argue about, Ralph, can you put the sheet music down and do your English homework? Mom, I don't want to do my English homework because it's boring. That's what we argue about. English is the only class that he does in school that's not a college level class, so it's boring for him.
Yeah,
that's
and
what
I
we
heard
argue about.
Well, that's a pretty good argument. I'll take that. And I heard that Yale had asked him to apply to their school. I think that says something about the caliber of kid. Okay, not once but twice.
Okay.
Let's get it.
She said, "Get it together, Gail." Yale asked him twice. You talking about? Shout out to Ralph.
Straight, Ms. Nagby. Thank you. I understand that President Biden called your home yesterday. What did he say to you all?
Bullshit.
He said that he and Ralph joked that his dad was a clarinet player, and his dad told him that if it depended on President Biden to support the family on his musical skills, the family was going to die hungry. And Ralph told him that he had jokes.
That's good that
It's
he's
nice
able to
to hear
laugh.
that he's still got a sense of humor. Lee, what's the next step in this case? What happens now?
Well, as I mentioned before, we'll be meeting with Prosecutor Thompson later today. We want to understand the charges that he did move forward with. We're happy that they're 2 felony charges that bear serious consequences, but we're not quite sure why attempted murder wasn't one of the charges, and we want to explore that a little further.
Yeah, why
we're
wasn't?
looking forward to speaking with federal prosecutors and investigators to see if this family's civil rights were violated, particularly in terms of due process. We expect all families who are met with this kind of trauma to get an immediate police response and a vigorous prosecution. That's not what this family was given before there was national outcry.
Well, there's still a lot of questions here. And again, I'm going to close with the way we started. We are so excited and so happy and so relieved to know that your son has survived. Thank you so much.